A quick disclaimer before we start. The content in today's episode is for informational and educational purposes only and does not represent an endorsement of any products by Wound Care today. Healthcare professionals should evaluate all discussed products based on their own clinical judgment and the unique needs of their patients. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Wound Care Today USA. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to WoundCasters by Wound Care Today, where we explore the gaps by exploring the truth. I'm your host, Felix Boecker, and today I'm excited to have two wonderful guests with us, Maurice Lubetzki and Clément from CemagCare, and they'll be talking about a very innovative product that I just recently found out at a conference I was at, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating to talk about this because it's a truly innovative product that is new and different and exciting in so many ways. Maurice and Clément, welcome to WoundCasters. So excited to have you guys here today. How are you guys doing?
Amazing. Yeah, thanks, Felix, for inviting us.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourselves. Who are you and how did you get to be here today?
You start, yeah?
Yeah, I'm Maurice. I lead the strategy and the operations and the business development in the US for CemagCare. And I've been working for a couple of years now for them.
And I'm Clément Desjardins, so I'm Chief Business Officer at CemagCare. And in fact, I was involved since the very beginning of the Cinesteam project, so this innovative cinnamon-based dressing, because I was in charge of all the project development for Cinesteam since the very, very early phase to the prototyping phase and then the registration in Europe, all around the world, and now in the US. And we just obtained the FDA approval few months, maybe 1 year ago, and we are starting to sell the product in the US now, and Maurice is helping us for that.
Yes, and the cat is already out of the hat. You mentioned that it is a cinnamon-based product, which is truly new and different, something that I have never seen before, not even anything that I've ever contemplated using on patients. So tell us a little bit more about what your product is, what it does, how it works.
Okay, I think one thing that we should mention before anything about the product is that at the beginning of Cinesteam, we thought about the patients and we thought about like what does smell means for patients. And the very first thing that we've realized with clinicians was that odors are no longer a clinical sign. They are a symptom that we need to fight, just like a wound. And this is why we dived into an adventurous R&D vertical within CemagCare that led us to this product. But the vision is we want to fight for the patient. We wanted to fight for the patients to give them dignity, to enable caregivers the ability to work with products that enable them to work with malodorous wounds and to work with those patients without having the burden of like working with malodorous wounds. And also we wanted to give back time that family didn't have with their relative that had malodorous wounds. And on that, I'll give the floor to Clément, who will explain the product.
All right. Yeah. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so the idea of the product, in fact, was the idea from a nurse called Isabelle Fromentin. She's based in Paris, and she's the head of Cancer Institute in Paris. And she was dealing every day with patients with very malodorous wounds, because tumoral wound can be very, very stinky. It's very big wound, a lot of exudate, a lot of infection. And she was struggling every day to find an efficient solution to reduce the bad smell for the patient. And when I'm speaking about bad smell, in fact, one patient in the unit can just affect all the floor and all the hospital, because clearly the odor is very, very awful for the patient, for the relative, but also for the caregivers. And she did a PhD to understand the causes about this bad smell and why a wound was so stinky and what causes the bad smell. And in fact, she did the literature research and she found that spices can be very useful to fight against bad smell. So the solution, in fact, came from the nature. And we tested a lot of different spices, cinnamon, turmeric, cloves, coffee, pepper, to find the best in class to catch the bad smell. And cinnamon was the best in class. So she came up with this idea. She met our CEO, Andre Ullman, and she said, okay, I have this solution. I'm seeing it's going to work, but this is just an idea. So now we need to develop a product that can be marketable and we can have access to as many patients as possible. And it's how the journey started. So we developed a lot of prototypes. We work closely with HCP, with patients, with wound care experts in Europe to find the best dressing possible with a good conformability, good comfort for the patient, and obviously a very good efficiency for fight against bad smell. And we came with this dressing. So this is the journey of Cinesteam. It sounds it's very unique. I mean, there is no competitor on the market using cinnamon for that. And we obviously have a full patent for this technique. And yes, now we are very happy to have Cinesteam in the US.
That's amazing. That's truly a wonderful story, and I think it really exemplifies how we as wound care providers, as physicians, as clinicians, whether that's doctors or the nurses or the physical therapists, really should think about our patients, right? Always looking for new solutions, not just taking the status quo of what we have in the closet already and thinking that's the be all end all, but always looking for new solutions, because everything we have isn't perfect. There's still going to be situations where the dressings we do have available to us just simply don't work. So that's absolutely amazing. I love that story that someone took the initiative and said, I have a problem that we don't have a solution to. Here's what I'm going to do about it. And then went ahead and did it, right? And found the solution and came to you guys. Couple of clarifying questions, even for me. So Cinesteam is the dressing, CemagCare is the company. Did I get
company? Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. So CemagCare is a pharmaceutical company based in Paris. It's more like a startup. So we are growing a lot since a few years now. We have 25 people working at Cemag. In fact, our CEO, Andre Ullman, is the father of the morning after pill. So he developed the morning after pill in Europe and worldwide. He sold the company and created a new startup called CemagCare. We are mainly focused on women health, but we also have Cinesteam in our portfolio because at the very beginning, the patient treated by Isabelle Fromentin, so the nurse who had the idea of Cinesteam, was dealing with a woman affected by breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And breast cancer has the biggest wounds you can have, I can say. And that's why we developed Cinesteam, but obviously now we're extending the indication for every type of malodorous wounds. So VLUs, DFUs, tumoral wound, and I mean every type of stinky wounds.
Yes.
So we have Cinesteam. So it's a French product, I would say, and now we are marketing the product in 15-ish countries all around the world. Yeah,
that's very cool. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about CemagCare. What is there a story, a history behind the name? What does it stand for?
Yes, there is a history behind the name. In fact, it's the name of Andre's daughter and wife. So Cécile, so CEMA for Marion, and AG for Agnes. So it's yes, family name.
Okay, that's awesome.
And it's a private company owned by Andre. Yeah.
Gotcha. So why did Nurse Isabel come to you guys? What were you doing before Cinesteam came about that made her come to you? What made that relationship work?
Yeah, so I'm going to be very transparent on this very good question. In fact, Isabelle has this idea, and she went to every big players in wound care, like Urgo, like Monliker, like Johnson and Johnson, and everyone was saying, "Okay, your idea, maybe yes, we don't know. Malodorous wound is not such important. We don't want to go for it." And then she met Andre through a friend, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to invest, and I'm going to help you to develop the product," and that's it. But at the very beginning, CemagCare do not have any expertise in wound care. So we start from scratch and learn about wound care, learn about industrialization, undressing, and so on. And we are mastering, I will say, all the manufacturing process for the dressing. We have now online for the production. So we started clearly from scratch.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
So I'm
wild.
Yes, Andre bet on that, and he said, "Okay, we are going to help the patient. I believe in this product. I believe in this idea," and that's how we started Cinesteam, and I would say our journey in wound care.
Yeah. That's a wild story considering you guys didn't have any experience in wound care before, and then just through luck, through fortune, through the universe bringing you guys together, you now have a truly an innovative product on your hands that you could sell. And I think you said you were in 15 countries already, so that's pretty amazing. How long? So CemagCare, I guess, as a company, has been around for a while, but how long have you guys been working on Cinesteam? What was that R&D cycle like? How long has it been in the development phase, and how long has it been available on the market now?
So I started to join CIMAG in 2019 now, so 7 years ago almost. So the journey started 7 years ago with the development phase and so on, and we obtained the CE mark in 2020. I would say
Okay.
just the COVID situation, so it was a little bit complicated for launching the product. So we obtained CE mark, yes, in 2020, few months after the UK certification and registration, and then we launched the product first in Europe. And I guess few months after, we obtained the registration for Brazil, so Anvisa, and then Amar in Israel, also a few months ago, and I think 1 year ago, the FDA approval for starting in the US.
Yes.
So I say yes, the commercialization started in 2020 in Europe, and then in the US, so we are in the pre-launch phase.
That's awesome. So is the product available in the US already? Or because you said we are available, but you also called it a pre-launch. So for those listeners in the US, which is really where most of our audience is at right now,
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
product available? Can we get it?
Yeah, you can totally get it in boxes of 12, and you can get it through our DME, our first DME who was carrying our product. The DME is Clara Care. If you go to claracare.com, you can buy the product online.
Mhm.
And for the next 5 months, because we are in pre-launch in the US, we are giving to all your audience a 50% coupon code that is CEMAG25,
Wow, that's awesome.
CEMAG25, and they'll get the product at half price, which is like, I think, $80 or something for 12 dressings. So that's amazing. And
That is
we're very
fantastic.
excited. Yeah, we're very
Yeah.
excited to increase the usage in the US, to have some feedback as we had when we started in Europe. And from what we've seen in Ohio, because we've launched in Ohio primarily, we've had tremendous results. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So thank you for doing that. That's truly generous of you guys to offer that discount. That's fantastic. And I hope that the listeners do take advantage of that to get this dressing out there into their hands, to play with it, to use it, to hopefully help patients with malodorous wounds. And, when I met you at the conference, at the Northeast Surgical Conference in Cleveland, the case study that you guys had shown on your pamphlet was obviously fungating breast cancer mass, and those wounds are incredibly difficult to control the smell of. There's just Nothing that I've ever tried really works. It kind of works, but it never really does. So having a product that can actually help with the smell is absolutely fantastic. But one of the other things in your pamphlet that I wanted to touch upon is it's not just about the odor control, because from my understanding, this dressing is also highly absorptive, so it can be used on highly exudative wounds as well. So I guess my question is it really just the malodorous wounds that this product should be used on, or are there indications for any wound that have a lot of exudate, a lot of fluid output?
Okay, so in fact, it is a secondary dressing, so meaning that need to use a primary dressing. It's not so highly absorbent, so it can manage the excess of exudate, coming from the primary dressing, but it's not so highly, I will say,
Okay.
absorbent.
Okay, so that's good to
So
know.
obviously, you can use for any type of wound. No issues. There is no contraindication. The only contraindication is not to use Cinesteam in combination with a charcoal dressing. This is the only contraindication, because the two, I will say, active ingredient, which is the charcoal and the cinnamon, will go like an antagonist mechanism. This is the only contraindication.
Okay.
But yes, it can manage excess of exudate, but it's not so much highly absorbent.
That was actually my one of my next questions too, was the contraindications, and I'm a little surprised by activated charcoal being a contraindication. You're saying they're antagonistic. Intuitively, that kind of doesn't make sense, because charcoal really is more absorptive and should help with odor as well, in theory. Although in practice, I haven't really found it to work all that well. So have you guys actually had practical experience with the two together?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes,
what's been your experience with that?
But in fact, the charcoal will catch the cinnamon, and I mean, it will be the reverse. So we do not have any effect. And why Cinesteam is more effective than charcoal? It's because even if the dressing is wet, because of the exudation of the wound, it's still working. Rather than with a charcoal dressing, when it is wet, it's not working at all.
Right.
So that's why also Cinesteam is much more efficient than charcoal dressing. And also the mechanism behind the active molecule is not the same. Okay, because in fact, cinnamon has physical-chemical properties to catch the VOC, so the molecule which smell bad, emitted by the bacteria. So it
those
catches
volatile organic
and
compounds.
keep it. So it will not mask it. It will just keep it. It will keep the VOC linked to the molecule of the cinnamon. That's why it's also super efficient.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I never knew that about cinnamon. So where do you get all your cinnamon from? Is there, how much cinnamon do you need? How much cinnamon is in the dressing? And can I use the cinnamon that's in my spice cupboard right now as well?
It's a very good question. In fact, there is in the world different type of cinnamon. The one we are using comes from Sri Lanka. So it's a specific type of cinnamon. Came from Sri Lanka. It's obviously pharmaceutical grade, meaning that the cinnamon is grounded in powder, and then the powder will have this sort of process of sterilization to be sure that there is no any content and bacteria and so on in it, and then it is putting in the sachet into the dressing. Which is also interesting regarding the contraindication, is that the cinnamon powder is contained in a specific pouch, which is including into the dressing. And this pouch, in fact, is dust proof, meaning that there is no possibility that the cinnamon can comes outside the dressing and be in contact directly with the patient, meaning that even if the patient allergic to cinnamon, okay, it is not, I would say, such a contraindication. It is not recommended, but in case someone doesn't know that he is allergic to cinnamon, there is no risk of having allergies with that.
Yeah.
So it's also important to know that,
That's an interesting point. I have never come across anybody who has a cinnamon allergy, although I suppose that it's possible.
Yeah.
You never know. And sometimes you don't know. So that's definitely a good point you make, that someone with a cinnamon allergy should be cautious, but it doesn't sound like it's an absolute contraindication, because cinnamon is contained within the pouch, and shouldn't be able to get in contact with the patient. So that's fascinating. So why the Sri Lankan cinnamon? Is there something special about that? Is it just because that's where the pharmaceutical cinnamon is coming from? Or I don't know much about cinnamon, to be honest with you. All I'm thinking about right now is the, if you think about honey, there's thousands of different types of honey, but the one specific for wound care is the Manuka type honey.
Yeah, correct.
So,
New Zealand.
Right. So is there something specific about this Sri Lankan cinnamon that makes it more suitable for this purpose than cinnamon from somewhere else in the world?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. So in fact, obviously we tested different type of cinnamon. There is cinnamon from Sri Lanka. There is cinnamon from India, I guess also in South Asia, I don't know, Malaysia, something like that. And in fact, there is different type of cinnamon, and the contents of cinnamaldehyde, which is an essential oil of cinnamon, is not the same. Okay, so we tested the different type of cinnamon, and in fact, the one from Sri Lanka was the best in class.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you guys have definitely done a ton of research on this. How long did all of this research, so from the time Nurse Isabel came to you guys to you actually having a viable product that you can put on a patient, how long did that process take to test all these different compounds to see which ones would work best?
So the idea, I think Isabel has this idea is 2016. Okay, then we are like, I will say, very early stage R&D phase during 2016 and 2019, where we perform like test of the different type of spice. We tested a different type of cinnamon, for example. So we did like chemical R&D phase, tested everything and so on. And then we really started the design of the dressing in 2019, when also I joined the company, in fact. So I say it's quite a long process. So since the idea in 2016 and then the CE mark in 2020, so it's quite a long work.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always fascinating to me to listen to the R&D cycles and how long it takes from idea to actually having a product. So now that you have this product that you could actually try on patients, what was it like to get through the regulatory approval process to actually get this stuff onto people? Did you guys do any animal studies first as a proof of concept, or did you go straight to humans? How difficult was it to get this product actually onto patients?
Yeah, very interesting question again. So yes, first we did some in vitro study with a model which mimic, in fact, the malodor of the wound. And we use a cheese because we are also in France, obviously.
I love it.
No, but honestly, we found a cheese called maroilles, which is a cheese of the north of France. And in fact, the odor emitted by the maroilles was more or less the same as the one from the wound. So you imagine the poor people having, I would say, this bad smell. And then we started with this in vitro study, which mimic the bad smell from the wound. And we tested different type of dosage of cinnamon, different type of fabrics for the dressing, and so on, with a panel of people who are testing that. And we work with a company called Odor, which is specialized in everything related to the odor and the smell. And once we found something which was okay and we were happy with that, we designed different type of prototypes, obviously. And then we started working with a skin of pig, which tumors, like tumoral wounds. And we also tested on that. And then we went directly on first patient. Because the product is not in direct contact with the patient, there was no need to go, with more, I will say, deeper study with animals models and so on. So let's say we did like in vitro study with the models, which mimics the bad smell, then skin pig, and then we go directly with patients.
Yeah. That's an interesting point that I hadn't even thought about, because the product itself is not in direct contact with the patient, like you said, because it's a secondary dressing. That the regulatory pathway is probably somewhat different. But speaking of the regulatory pathway, I'm curious. You guys are in Europe. I'm here in the United States. What is the what are the differences in the regulatory approval pathways for you guys? You've been through it. There's probably some countries that are easier to get into than others. But what have you learned throughout this process? What works? So if someone else has a great idea for a product and they want to follow in your footsteps and bring their product to market, what are some advice that you have, some pitfalls that you've made along the way, some regulatory approval process, intricacies that you want to share with the world?
Okay, the first and foremost advice we have for you guys is start in the United States. Don't start in Europe, especially for wound care, because the market is bigger. And in Europe, the market is way more atomized, which means that if you want to market your product in Europe, you not only have to CE mark your product, but you also have to face all the single country regulatory approvals authorities in order to potentially have your product reimbursed, which we actually have in the UK's, fortunately, in both sizes. Sorry?
In Germany also.
And in
Netherlands.
Germany, the Netherlands as well. But it took us years. Whereas in the US, if you're reimbursed, as we are trying to be, we've applied to PDAC to get a HCPCS code that we potentially get in like 2 or 3 months now. You get to market your product in all states in the US, which is a major difference.
That's interesting. I never knew that. So I guess it makes sense in Europe. You have the European Union, but you still have all the individual countries that have their own regulatory approval processes. So whereas here in the States,
in medical devices, it's a little bit different because yes, you will have your CE mark for all European country, but then, for example, for the UK, you need a specific registration because UK is outside Europe. For Switzerland, it's the same. But then, what Maurice said is about the market access. So, I mean, having the CE mark, maybe, yes, it's easier and quicker in the US, I guess, because now in Europe, you have the new regulation, which is the MDR, which is much more higher standard than the previous one, meaning that you need more clinical data, for example, proof of concept, first test on the patient, and so on. Obviously, you have a lot of safety and toxicity tests to be sure that your product obviously is safe for the patient. So you have a lot of bunch of tests which are mandatory for that. So you need to have everything. And then regarding the market access, specifically for wound care, it's country by country, meaning that we said we have the reimbursement, for example, in the UK. It was much easier than other European countries. We have it in Netherlands, we have it in Germany, but for instance, we do not have it in France. Besides the fact it's our country, because in France, yes, because in France it's very complicated to have a product reimbursed, and we need to have a very good clinical study with data directly on patients showing that Cinesteam is more efficient than charcoal dressing. So meaning that we have a clinical study which is ongoing with 2 arms, double blind, and so on, blah, 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 with patient treated with Cinesteam and patient treated with charcoal dressing. But you can imagine that we have to do it in public hospital. So it took years and years and years and years. So until we do not have those data, we cannot apply for the reimbursements. So as you said, there is different type of market access in different countries. UK, they are very willing to have a reimbursement for innovation. It was the same in Germany, the same in Netherlands, or for example, in France, it's a pain in the ass. Honestly, it's super complicated. You have to run a study, very complicated, such as study run, for example, for a drug, and it costs a lot. So yes, we are selling in France, but still, yes, it's very low sales. So this is a very good point. And there are other countries where there is no reimbursement for dressing, for example, for this type of dressing, like Scandinavia, like Portugal, and so on. And those markets are tender driven. meaning that it can take years to be able to get into untender and into hospital. So it's a long process. It's complicated. You need to have KOL from each market on board. You need clinical evidence. You need everything. So it's very long process. So yes, US, it's easier, quicker, and you can go very easily on the market. And obviously the market is much bigger. So yes,
Yeah.
Europe is a little bit complicated.
Awesome. That's fascinating. Just to hear the different perspectives from these different countries and how they do things. That's always so fascinating to listen to. So you mentioned some research that you're doing right now. What research are you doing? Is there opportunities for people who are listening and who are researchers who like to play around with different wound care dressings to help you guys out? What kind of research is still needed from your end? How do people get involved? How can people connect with you to talk about research potentially?
So now we have a lot of clinical cases from Europe. I mean, UK, France, Netherlands, Germany, which has been published, for example, at the UMA, which is the most important congress and wound care association in Europe. So we are publishing each year some clinical case, which are obviously really good. And I mean, in different type of indication, patients are very happy. Like for obviously fungating wounds, tumoral wounds, DFU, VLUs, it's worked very well. We have also a good connection with a KOL based in Israel, and we have also a very good clinical case from her in another type of cancer. And in the US, in fact, we are running a study with the NESWC, so in Ohio. And now we have 50-ish, I guess. 52 clinical case. And we are going to present the data during the next SOC in April, I guess.
But if
yes.
you need to, if you want to work with us and you want to try our products, or if you want to directly talk with us about our products, you can reach us out to contact CONTACT at
yes,
contact at CemagCare.com, and we'll send you some samples. We are always looking for some new people who will champion our product through new cases. We're mainly deployed and used in Ohio. So guys, from all other states, come to us, come and give us the possibility to spread cinnamon not only in the Northeast but all over the United States of America.
Yes. Well, I'm based out of Ohio, so that makes my heart warm a little bit that Ohio stands for something.
But Felix, no problem. We can send you samples as well.
Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah, so we talked about fungating breast wounds, DFUs, VLUs, those, really any kind of malodorous wound. It's a great secondary dressing. What's the future hold for you guys? Where do you see this product going? What areas have you not dove into or dived into? And where do you see your future of Cinesteam and CemagCare?
Okay, I'll share something about R&D. We want to push our secondary dressing towards a primary dressing. We want to combine some sort of foam potentially, or some sort of calcium alginate, I don't know, something that will absorb, exudate as much as possible with our technology, so that the new Cinesteam, that will be the primary dressing Cinesteam, will actually combine primary dressing abilities with our secondary dressing ability that's absorbing odors. So for all your listeners, if you know people who want to collaborate with us and build a primary dressing and start to work on that, market it, and have some impact on patients in the US, we are here to talk and open to conversations.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually have a contact for you guys for a wound care product manufacturer that I'll connect you guys with that may be interested in working with you on creating that primary dressing. So, uh,
More than that, to discuss with him. Yeah.
uh,
Amazing.
I
yes.
said,
So,
the big things. CIMAC does not have any expertise in wound care, so we started from scratch. We are learning, obviously, but we did a lot of mistakes also. Even with the current product, we know that the product is not perfect. For example, regarding the level of exudation it can manage. Also regarding the I will say specificity we have to be sure that we can fit in any reimbursement, any tenders list, and so on. So it's a little bit complicated, but we know that the product is not perfect. So as Maurice said, now we need to build a primary dressing with all the good specification and requirements for being able to fit in any tenders in Europe, in any reimbursement code, for example, and so on, to be sure that as many patients as possible can have access to our product. Because honestly, for example, in France, for us, it's so frustrating that we do not have the reimbursement.
yeah.
I mean, like, you say, okay, we developed this very good dressing. All patients are happy. Caregivers are happy, but we cannot give access to all patients because we do not have the reimbursement. So yes, it's super frustrating, and we are trying to have it, but we cannot. So yes, it's a chicken and the egg. So we want as many patients as possible having the product, but we need to have the reimbursement, but we need also to redesign a little bit the product.
And
Yeah.
doubling down on Clémence and our frustration that we do not have in the US. We know that we're not reimbursed in the US and that for DMEs, this could be a complete blocker. But guys, reach out to us. We want to be distributed all over the US. For now, we only have one DME. We are open to having other distributor. What we want, our primary focus is to have our product used across all the country. So we are the next step now, having this innovation on the market, working, being a best-in-class fighting against malodorous wounds, is to have distributors. We don't have a workforce that is distributing our product at scale in the US. We need DMEs. That's it. So please,
All right.
we want DMEs, reach out to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a great call to action for any DMEs out there or people who are connected with DMEs. Go ahead and get this product in your hands and play with it, see how it works, see that it does work, and then talk to other DMEs to get this product distributed. So on that note, let's remind our listeners again how to get the product here in the United States. So you had mentioned it earlier, Maurice, but why don't we talk about it again one more time?
That's claracare.com, claracare.com. You'll have our product on the website. You can order it online. And you have a coupon code for the next 5 months. That's CEMAG25, CEMAGT25. And with this coupon code, you have a 50% discount. And we're very happy to provide this discount to all your listeners. Please, please, please use us and have some impact on dignity and caregivers for patients and caregivers.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation, you guys. Thank you for taking the time out to be here today, sharing your insights, sharing your product. Is there any final last words from you guys that we haven't touched upon yet? Anything you want the world to know about?
Yes, odor is not a clinical sign, it's a symptom. If you believe that, use Cinesteam.
Absolutely, yeah. And do not hesitate to contact us. We are very nice. And we'll be happy to discuss with you guys. And yes, maybe to meet you also at the next soak and whenever you want. And we are here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you all for spending some time with us today, exploring this gap, exploring this truth. We want to hear your thoughts, comments, and reactions to this conversation. So please reach out to us, reach out to CemagCare. If there are any particular topics you want to hear about or other guests you'd like to see on the show, reach out and contact us. And if you're listening to this on a podcast app, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review so others can find this content more easily. And if you like this particular episode, please share it with a friend. Also, don't forget to check out our website at wct-us.com for lots more educational wound care content. And finally, Be sure to tune in next time as we explore yet another aspect of the challenging and rewarding field of chronic wound care. Au revoir.
Au revoir.